He's Joe Thomas, the former Browns All-Pro tackle and a Wisconsin grad. Joe, you're a former All-Pro tackle. You're not considering coming back, are you?
Not at this point. I'm very happy with retirement, and it's. I think the knees are a little too far gone to make any dreams of coming back and playing.
Well, I was being serious here that you see what's happening with Cleveland, and how hard is it to look at what's happening in Cleveland? And you went through the tough years, the lean years there with your career. You know, any thought like mentally that you go, man, I'd like to come back, or I'd love to try to come back?
Well, certainly I wish my career had more wins than the losses that I was able to accumulate. And obviously it looks like they're going to go on a nice run here. They've put together a heck of a team. But it's funny. I think in my head I'm just so certain that I can't do it anymore.
Okay.
Due to the lack of cartilage and the pain and suffering that I went through my last few years just trying to get ready on Sundays. There's nothing in my mind that says, hey, maybe if I do this or that, I could get out there and do it. I just know I just don't have anything left.
Do you miss hitting people?
I don't miss getting hit. I know that much. I'm not sure I was hitting many people towards the end of my career anyway. I was just trying to absorb them and get in their way for a few seconds so the quarterback could throw the football.
How much weight have you lost?
I would say from my last game in the NFL, I'm probably down about 50 pounds. But early on in my career, 2012, 13, I was pretty heavy. I was like 325. So from that point, I'm down almost 75 pounds.
But do you get into this mode that, like, food is not there to enjoy? Like, it's fuel. Like, I have to eat this amount, not that I want to eat this amount?
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it was when I was playing my career. I was always sort of an undersized tackle that had to eat a lot. I mean, every meal I had to walk away feeling like I was going to throw up just in order to keep enough weight on so that the coaches weren't yelling at me on Monday morning. So it was always a struggle. I think it became mentally taxing because every 2 hours, if I wasn't sitting down and shoving my face full of bad sugar and carbs and everything you can imagine, I would get stressed out about it because I would lose weight so quickly when I would miss a meal that it would be on my mind constantly.
What was the bad food that you were shoving into your mouth?
Well, every meal had to have just an overwhelming amount of carbohydrates, pasta with plenty of dessert, which, now sounds pretty nice. But it also made my body kind of feel crappy. I always had lots of heartburn and lots of joint pain from all the sugar and stuff that I was intaking during my career.
Well, so if I like pizza, cookies, like that, you could eat right?
So here, I'll give you an example. Eating a nice normal meal of an entire plate of lasagna, but then for dessert, you'd eat a couple cookies, but that wasn't it. Then before bed, I would actually go downstairs and I'd usually pour myself a nice 20 or 30 ounce glass of whole milk and then about a pint of ice cream. And then I'd wash it down with some casein protein before bed. And that was really just to maintain my weight. That was about all I had to do.
What if you had a maximum weight that you could weigh in the NFL? Just to maybe encourage guys to get healthier, to be healthier. What do you think about that?
I'm not sure that would work. It's funny because it seems like about half the guys that I played with on the offensive and defensive line were always really struggling and working hard to gain weight to be able to get up to that 300 pounds or wherever the coaches wanted them. And then the other half of the guys were really struggling hard and, we're eating 3 salads a day just to get under 325 or 330. So I guess it all kind of depended on the type of person you are. But you look back in the 80s, I mean, there was hardly anybody over 300 pounds.
Yeah.
So now it's most of the linemen, shoot, if you're not 300 pounds, you're undersized.
Put on your analyst hat here, not the former Browns All-Pro tackle here. You look at the Browns. What's your biggest concern about the Browns next season?
Well, I think the big concern going in is just expectations, right? The Browns team hasn't dealt with such an off season of adulation like they've had right now. And so how does this team handle that? I mean, a lot of these guys are young and they're new, and so they haven't been around for the decades of losing and some of the other times when there was some expectations. But, I mean, there's legitimate hope that this is a Super Bowl contender, and there's a lot of people are going to be picking them to win the AFC North, myself included. And so I think just as a young team, how do you handle those heightened expectations? How do you handle that anticipation that they are going to be good, because they're not sneaking up on anybody anymore? I mean, they won 7 games last year, and I think people were a little surprised by that, but they're not surprising anybody anymore. So how do they handle that? How do they put their nose to the grindstone and go to work this offseason?
You got a chance for the Monday Night Football booth?
I don't know. Nobody's been talking to me directly, and I'm not sure I'm ready for that. I'm not sure I'm excited to step into Jason Witten's shoes. It looks like he didn't have a lot of fun last year, and I'm looking for something that's fun.
Well, do you think that's a cautionary? I mean, you being serious that you saw what happened to Witten and you're like, I've never called a game, and to be thrown in there, and now you're following up Witten, so they're expecting something from that person who steps in that booth.
Yeah, I auditioned for it last year, and coming out of the audition after, you kind of ask the questions about, all right, what's it like if you're doing this? What's the preparation like? What's the travel like? And you start hearing about it, and it's like, wow, that's a lot more work than I did during my career. When you're traveling Friday to Tuesday for 20 straight weeks, and the 2 days you're home, you're largely kind of preparing, and especially for somebody like me, who's never called a game, I got a lot of work to do, right? As an analyst, as somebody that does, pregame, or you're talking about the game on one of the highlight shows, that's easy stuff. That's stuff that you've done throughout your career, because you're just answering questions from, what you were used to doing during your career after games. But when you're calling a game, that's a whole different animal. And so I'd have a lot to learn, and it would be a lot more work than I'm looking for right now. I'm looking for something pretty easy, Dan. I don't want to work too hard my first few years in retirement.
I respect that. Your reaction when you saw Johnny Manziel's, now a member of the AAF's Memphis Express?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm curious to see where that career is going to lead him, and it'll be interesting to kind of follow that path and see what happens.
You didn't have – wait a minute. You didn't have much to say about that.
I got to be honest. I haven't really followed the
okay.
AAF. AFL or the AAF or CFL career of Johnny. I actually saw him the other day in Chicago, and certainly wish him the best. But it won't be the first thing that shows up on my timeline, that's for sure.
You got your bracket. You're the first one to turn in your bracket in the Celebrity Bracket Challenge. You got Duke, Gonzaga, Tennessee, and Kentucky, and Duke winning the national title. How much college basketball do you watch, Joe?
To be honest, I follow the Badgers and watch some of the Big Ten stuff. And then other than that, I don't really pay much attention until the tournament rolls around. So it's perfect timing now that I'm on your show talking basketball, because I am kind of the resident expert. Well,
we're going to find out. Hey, great to talk to you, and we will keep an eye on those brackets. Thanks for joining us as always, Joe.
I appreciate it, Dan.
That's Joe Thomas, former Cleveland Browns offensive lineman.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.